Previously, we've discussed the solubility of volatile anesthetic agents in blood and in lipid. That was about onset of action and potency, but there is another component to this, how long it takes the patient to wake up. This is not that simple because all of these agents have context sensitive half times, and the concept that underlies the emergence from anesthesia is a combination of these factors plus the tissue blood partition coefficient. Fundamentals of anesthesiology with me, Pat Nelligan. Understanding gases and vapors. Emergence from anesthesia, part 1. This tutorial looks at the tissue blood partition coefficients. Previously, I discussed blood solubility of anesthesia gases and vapors, known as the blood gas partition coefficient, and that determines the onset of action of these agents. Then we moved on to look at the lipid solubility that determines potency. This is the oil gas partition coefficient, and the higher the solubility, the more potent the drug. The MAC is the effective dose 50 for a movement. It's an exhaled concentration, and it's inversely related to potency. So drugs that have a high oil gas partition coefficient have a low MAC. And the MAC, the minimum alveolar concentration or the median alveolar concentration, is universally used to set targets for anesthesia, but it is adjusted, the Fmac, the fraction of MAC, for age, multimodal interventions, and the stage of surgery. In the tutorial, we're going to look at the first part of emergence from anesthesia. This is where volatile agents are the principal hypnotics. I'm going to start with a discussion about tissue blood partition coefficients, and then we're going to work on to tissue compartments and anesthetic storage, and then tissue back diffusion. Before I get there, I want to pivot back a little bit because I really need to discuss how general anesthesia is done. And in the old days, and we still do this, patients were given inhalational induction of anesthesia. These days, you would use sevoflurane with or without nitrous oxide. And after inhalational induction of anesthesia, you either hold a face mask, insert a laryngeal mask, or place an endotracheal tube and target an FA-FI ratio that is appropriate for the adequate depth of anesthesia. Intravenous induction is the most commonly used approach, and that is followed by either total IV anesthesia or a volatile anesthesia with a Fmac, a fraction of the MAC target. And that is usually followed by either placement of a face mask that you hold yourself and the patient breathes spontaneously, the placement of a laryngeal mask where the patient initially gets a couple of bags of positive pressure and then they're allowed to breathe spontaneously, or else they're left on positive pressure ventilation throughout, and they may transition at some stage towards spontaneous ventilation that may be supported, for example, with pressure support ventilation, or the patient will have an endotracheal tube placed and then they're put on intermittent positive pressure ventilation, either volume control or pressure control, and ultimately, at the end of the case, they will presumably breathe for a short period of time before they're extubated. During all of this, during the maintenance phase, you have two choices. You either keep the patient on total IV anesthesia or you maintain that patient with the volatile agent with or without nitrous oxide, plus multimodal analgesic anesthetic agents such as local anesthetic, nerve blocks, opioids, nonsteroidals, and paracetamol acetaminophen. Generally, at the end of the operation, emergence is achieved by turning off the IV drug, for example, propofol during TIVA, or weaning the volatile agent to off by turning down and eventually turning off the vaporizer. And the patient emerges when the end tidal concentration, which mirrors the brain concentration, falls below a certain level. Initially, the MAC awake, then the MAC amnesia, and then it totally goes and the patient is awake and they know what's going on. This is the standard approach to volatile anesthesia after intravenous induction. Initially, the inspired concentration is very high to ensure that the FA, that's the alveolar concentration, rises quickly to achieve our F fractional MAC target before induction agents wear off. Then the FI-FA equilibrate and the inspired concentration is reduced to achieve a specific Fmac target. In this example, about zero point 0.7 Mach. This is our steady state. At the end of the operation, the vaporizer is turned down and subsequently turned off. At this stage, the exhaled concentration exceeds the inspired concentration. The total quantity of volatile anesthetic dose and its duration impacts emergence. So emergence is determined by the initial Fi volatile agent, usually to achieve that Mach target. How long the high Fi volatile is sustained, it should be reduced, and it should be reduced to a specific fraction of a Mach adjusted for age, and that fraction of a Mach, remember, is the end tidal concentration to maintain blood-brain steady state and avoid tissue accumulation. After turning off the inspired agent, the brain continues to be anesthetized as stored gas enters the brain from blood. Now I'm going to explain how this happens. Tissue compartments and agent storage. During onset of action of the agent, that's induction, most of the agent is loaded into blood and then the tissues start to fill up, muscle, fat, and other tissues, until the body is saturated with anesthetic agent and total body steady state is achieved. So let's go through this sequentially. In this image, I have four compartments: the airway and the alveoli, the blood, that's the most rapid compartment, muscle, and fat. During short cases, very little anesthetic enters muscle and fat because the agent goes into the blood, it rapidly equilibrates with the brain. We turn down the inspired concentration for maintenance. And then, because the case is short, a lot of that stuff gets washed out of the blood very rapidly. So, emergence from anesthesia in short cases is very much determined by the blood gas partition coefficient. During intermediate length cases, there is moderate tissue accumulation in both fat and muscle. Emergence is slower, determined by a combination of the tissue solubility of the agent, the tissue blood partition coefficients, and the blood solubility, the blood gas partition coefficient. During long cases, there is significant tissue accumulation and whole body steady state. During emergence, removal of anesthetic agents from the tissues is variable. It's context sensitive. Blood clears quickly, followed by muscle, followed by fat, and the speed of clearance is determined by the total quantity of agent stored in those tissues. Putting this all simply, in short cases, the agent is generally confined to the blood. In intermediate cases, there is a significant uptake in muscle and fat. In long cases, the tissue becomes saturated. What determines the propensity of an agent to be stored in the different tissues is the partition coefficient that agent has for those tissues. Partition coefficient, as I've previously mentioned, represents the ratio of concentrations of gas molecules in two phases, for example, between the alveolar gas and the blood, once their partial pressures have equalized. The concentration refers to the amount of gas dissolved per unit volume, millimoles per liter, whereas the partial pressure is measured in kilopascals or millimeters of mercury. The partial pressure gradient from one location to another is determined by how much that agent wants to escape from the first compartment to the second one. Previously, we've looked at the blood gas partition coefficient that determines the onset of action of the agent and how quickly the FA-FI ratio reaches 1. The oil gas partition coefficient determines the potency, and this is the inverse of the Mach. Now we need to look at the tissue blood partition coefficients. This is a little bit different from the other two partition coefficients because there isn't a specific number for it. Every tissue has a different partition coefficient. Even tissues that are principally muscle or fat will have different numbers for each one. Visceral fat may have a different partition coefficient, for example, from fat in the extremities. And all of this needs to be lumped together. Anesthetic gases and vapors are soluble in all body fluids, and each one has a storage capacity for those agents. The higher the partition coefficient, the greater the storage. Emergence is determined by the partial pressure gradient between tissue and blood, and between blood and the alveoli, between the alveoli and the air. The greater the storage of anesthetic agents, the slower the emergence from anesthesia. These are the various volatile agents and gases that we've previously discussed, and you can see that the agents that are insoluble in blood also tend to be less potent. Blood gas partition coefficient refers to the onset of action, and the oil gas partition coefficient, the potency, and the MAC. But the agents also have variable solubility in other tissues, principally in muscle and fat. And I want you to look at this table for a moment and process it, starting with methoxyflurane, working your way all the way down to nitrous oxide. And note that the agents that are most soluble in blood and most soluble in oil are also most soluble in muscle and fat. Let's tease through this table. I've now color coded the various agents according to the colors of their vaporizers. The first thing that will jump out at you is the compelling relationship between the fat gas partition coefficient, the oil gas partition coefficient, and the potency. As fat solubility increases, potency increases, and there is an inverse relationship with onset of action. Because the more lipid soluble drugs must leave fat to get to the blood to get to the alveoli, we can state categorically that the more potent the drug, the slower the onset of and the slower the emergence from anesthesia because of lipid solubility. But there is more. Muscle is about 70% water. And of course, that tracks the blood gas partition coefficient. But there's also protein and some fat and different intracellular and extracellular binding components. And all of these hold the agent more avidly than blood. Offset of action in terms of pharmacological properties of these agents is determined by the combination of the fat blood, the muscle blood, and the blood gas partition coefficients. Let's look at the compartments. In this situation, I've stacked the compartments in order of speed of accumulation of volatile agent. Blood, the fastest compartment, followed by muscle, followed by fat. So we have fast, slower, and slowest. And this patient has been given 3% sevoflurane. Initially, the sevoflurane rapidly goes to the blood and to the brain, and then it starts to enter muscle, and then it moves on to the slowest compartment, which is the fat. And that's why it doesn't really accumulate very quickly in short cases. However, higher inspired concentrations for longer periods results in significant tissue accumulation, and that tissue accumulation includes the brain. There may be enormous fat storage in obesity, particularly with high sustained inspiratory dosage. Subsequently, compartments empty along time constants. The blood empties the fastest into the alveoli because of the blood gas partition coefficient and the blood flow, then the muscle, and then the fat. And so even when you turn off the vaporizer, volatile agent leaves the tissue and then it enters the blood and it equilibrates with the brain, maintaining anesthesia. The key point here is that once the vaporizer is turned off, the brain continues to be anesthetized by tissue stores of that agent. And the reason for this is a concept known as tissue back diffusion. Let me explain how this works. During the operation, so long as the inspired concentration of volatile exceeds the expired concentration, depending on the tissue blood partition coefficients, agents will be taken up by the tissues, muscle, fat, and brain. Once the Fa is lower than the Fi, blood levels fall and volatile agents diffuse back from the tissues into the blood. Although you are not administering volatile agent, tissue stores maintain blood and brain partial pressures, thus slowing the decline in alveolar concentration. In other words, the patient continues to deliver anesthetic after the vaporizer is off, and this is known as tissue back diffusion. The tissue blood partition coefficients determine how much anesthetic is stored. With high solubility and large reservoirs, that results in slow emergence. With low solubility, with minimal storage, there is rapid emergence. If you look at the agents we have, nitrous oxide has by far the lowest solubility across the board. But desflurane is associated with very rapid emergence because it has very low tissue blood partition coefficient. Sevoflurane is intermediate. Isoflurane is a little bit longer. Halothane significantly slower. Methoxyflurane very, very prolonged. And the key point I want you to understand here is that nitrous oxide and desflurane have significantly lower tissue blood partition coefficients than sevoflurane and isoflurane. And the reason why I make this point is that because nitrous oxide is so insoluble in blood, muscle, and fat, traditionally anesthesiologists added nitrous oxide to enflurane, isoflurane, and sevoflurane to not only reduce the Fmac but also to reduce tissue accumulation. Because desflurane is significantly less soluble than sevoflurane, for longer cases or obese patients, desflurane is unquestionably associated with more rapid and predictable emergence. And even though patients go asleep, if you gas them down with desflurane and sevoflurane, using inhalational injection with desflurane is rarely done, but they go asleep at about the same speed because of those very, very low blood gas partition coefficients. Emergence is different because sevoflurane has moderately higher tissue blood partition coefficients than desflurane. Let's review this tutorial. This is the first of two tutorials on emergence from anesthesia where volatile agents are the principal hypnotics. I discussed the tissue blood partition coefficients, tissue compartments and anesthesia storage, tissue back diffusion, and why patients emerge from anesthesia quicker with one agent versus another. But that's not the only part of the story. Next time, we're going to look at the other factors that impact emergence from volatile anesthesia: the concentration flow ramp, the duration of the surgery, body habitus, hypothermia, hysteresis, and other drugs, and spontaneous breathing versus intermittent positive pressure ventilation. I'll see you then, and I guarantee you'll learn something.